MTV Sundays.
Good to the last drop.
Good into the last drop, man. I gotta have my pop seats. Richie rich boy, richer than a cash crop. People ask me, will my album drops? Will it stand up or will it just flop? Look, I don't know, but all I care about my father loves how I send praises in the air. You could come and try it, or you could just stare. It's so fair how this paper ain't fair. Best part of waking up, Folgers in my cup. Last next morning, so I taste it while I'm waking up. Tony the Tiger would say they're great, and it's never too late to eat Frosted Flakes. So I'ma give it all of me. Cinnamon toast crunch, that taste you can see. And you can come see, tastes good, you ain't gotta believe me. Taste that he's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see, come and see. You can taste that it's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see, come and see. You can taste that it's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see. Come and see, you can taste that it's good, yeah. Taste that it's good, yeah. Taste that it's good. Come and taste that it's good. Soon you be back to your original program, cause you being programmed to move to this music like a slow jam. You like what you feeling, you in a slow trance, but tread lightly, like slow dance. Fast food commercials making me hungry and they open late too. Another one telling me I need to lose weight too. Hopefully these annoying commercials will end soon. Taste that it's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see. Commercials are moving quickly, but long reaching like Muhammad Ali. The flow is like a butterfly, but stings like a bee. It's sweeter than the honey on a honeycomb. The flow is
calls for racial justice and equality.
Like the one seated on the right hand of the throne. Taste that he's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see, come and see. You can taste that it's good, yeah. Come and see. Come and see, come and see. You can taste that it's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see, come and see. You can taste that it's good, yeah. Taste that it's good, yeah. Taste that it's good. Come and taste that it's good. Taste that he's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see, come and see, come and see, come and see. Taste that it's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see, come and see. Taste that it's good, yeah. Come and see, come and see, come and see, come and see. Taste that it's good, taste that it's good, taste that it's good. Taste that is good. Now back to your original programming. I'm moving on like a Maya and Silk the Shaka song. I might as well let bygones be bygones and keep it moving like a train when it's gone. Cause I ain't doing this for nothing like a genuine song. I had dreams of making it big, flashing lights bigger than no one has ever did. But I thought to myself, is that really living? Or is it just a way to be self-sufficient? I gotta move on to a better way. I'm looking at my life, no I can't stay. Is heaven really real? I can't die to find out. But I could work with reason and figure this thing out. No more chasing money, you can have it all back. No more chasing lust, I want love back. You just wanna be successful, but when you die, will it be heaven or hell though? I've done so wrong things in my life. I've seen things no one's seen before. I've been so many places. I've been around the world and more. But look, I know that ain't life. I gotta move on now. Yeah, I know that ain't life. I gotta move on now. Yeah, I'm moving on like a movie. Moving on like a motion picture. Moving on like a movie. Moving on like a motion picture. Capture this moment like a picture. Hold it close to your heart and try to keep it with you. Make time for your daughters and hug your sister. Love your brothers, cause when one's gone, you're gonna miss them. But still I gotta move on like a movie. Through these sets of people acting like they always knew me. But that's a no-no, baby, like a contraceptive. And you don't have to abort a baby just to learn that lesson. Like Lecrae, I thought my dreams would die. Lord knows I didn't tell her to do it, but I still didn't try to stop her. It was all me, not her. I knew I should have handled things a little more proper. I've done so wrong things in my life. I've seen things no one's seen before. I've been so many places. I've been around the world and more. But look, I know that ain't life. I gotta move on now. Yeah, I know that ain't life. I gotta move on now. Yeah, I'm moving on like a movie. Moving on like a motion picture. Moving on like a movie. Moving on like a motion picture. Motion picture. I'm moving on. Aggressive with the flow is my medulla oblongata. My mama believing in me is not only cause she gotta do everything with excellence, even if you serving water. In the spur of the moment, I'm dunking in some Timbs. I'm an NBA baller. My mama believing in me cause I got potential. Believing in yourself, I think it's instrumental. I'm kinda instrumental on this instrumental. I'm on fire, getting hotter like the water in a kettle. Coach got me on the sideline. While I'm here, I'm serving water, trying to buy time. Patiently waiting for my shine time. Everyone is having their season when it's my time. For coach to put me in the game like I'm prime time. Who am I? Deion Sanders, boy, I'm Bobby Boucher.
That's what I call
You can do it all night. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it all night. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it all night long. All night. All night long. All night. All night long. All night long. I'm hearing I can do all things through him that made all things. That's where my head is at, like a 2K. Tryna make this my career like 2K. That's why I'm going up on a Tuesday. Studio work, man, I gotta make my dues pay. I'm in the studio, I gotta make my dues pay. Part of my check to the union, now my dues pay. Over the heat in Miami in a cool shade. I'm back wearing 23 like the new James. My hair is working on a jump shot, I got a new fade. Fresh out the box, boy, I'm in my new J's. That's all you see me wear nowadays. Maybe I wear them cause ladies love cool J's. Doing it and doing it well in whatever I do. I'm successful at being me cause I could never be you. I'm tackling everything, Bobby Boucher it through. And I heard you always say it to you. Go do. You can do it all night. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it all night. You can do it. You You can do it. You can do it all night long. All night long. All night long. All night long. Coach had me on the sideline. While I was there, I served water, trying to buy time. Patiently waited for my shine time. Everyone had their season, now it's my time. For Coach to put me in the game like I'm prime time. Who am I? Not Deion Sanders, boy, I'm Bobby Boucher. I might not be him tomorrow, but I'm Bobby today. I'm the new addition, so Bobby won't stay. Ask me, Whitney probably leading Bobby astray. Just a random thought, never mind anyway. I'ma go, not waiting for nobody to say. You can do it all night. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it all night. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it all night long. All night. All night long. All night long. All night long. All night. All night. I've been influenced by this music, trying my hardest not to abuse it. Being a good steward is what I'm doing, but making bad decisions can qualify me to lose it. I got the juice, and my words got influence. That's power I'm holding, and I don't want to blow it. All my flaws I expose it. I was taught by my dad that a man steps up and owns it. Don't get it mixed up like a potion. Influence. Summertime feels good, don't it? Listening to Summer Rain with Carl Thomas on it. The year Brandy and my brother graduated, throw them hands up in the air like I told you that we'll make it. Turn the lights on and see everything in our lives influence who we are. How we grew up big like Tom Hanks, watch movie stars. Now I got a thing for them keys, how I stay with bars. And anything that drives us so we get them cars. My brother Kevin was my biggest supporter, influenced me, so I promise I'ma carry the whole family on my shoulder. Can't getting older, teach them how you taught them. And Brandy, we will hold down with God's help. Sometimes we get prideful, so we deny help in bad positions, but stay in your lane and stop switching. Then storms come without permission, but can we stand the rain? Like New Edition. We got influences, cause we've been influenced. We got influences, cause we got influences. We got influences, cause we've been influenced. We got influences, cause we got influences. My daddy told me I was strange and they wanna know why. Yeah, I know I'm a pain, but I do it for the king, so I let Michael sing. Influence. Summertime feels good, don't it? Listening to Summertime with Fresh Prince on it. The same year MJ became a champ. My love for ballin' grew while in school, taking naps, best in class. So Kevin Oscar racing on the track. I was so young, boy, I thought them boys were going fast. Hug your dad, kiss your mama, stop the bickering and drama. I got no time for that drama. Only one baby mama, that's Nancy. She got that dress on, she looking so fancy. I want her every time she walks past me. That's by my side, cause she down the ride, do or die to do what's right. Go to church, pay your tithes, say so one on the side of the road. Be bold, cherish the old, love them for the wisdom they hold. They look at me strange, and they stare at me odd, but honestly, my biggest influence is God. We got influences, cause we've been influenced. got influences. 'Cause we got influences. We got influences. 'Cause we've been influenced. We got influences. 'Cause we got influences. My daddy told me I was strange and they wanna know why. Yeah, I know I'm a pain, but I do it for the king, for the king. All right, let's get into it. How's everybody doing tonight? All right, I got a good show for y'all tonight. I got a lot of information here. Hold on just a second. Okay. All right. So I'm trying a new system tonight. So all right. Okay. There it goes. Okay. All right. Tonight we're talking about reparations or no reparations. That is the question. So I posed a question today. Well, pretty much this whole week I posed a question in the chat rooms that I'm in the groups that I'm in. And it was interesting because I heard a lot of different things that concerned me. Um, a lot of things that I was saying. Um, I think some people need to say no to drugs. I really seriously think I was talking to a few people that were under the influence. Um, because they were like, I want them to sacrifice their babies. I was like, what are you saying? Like, what is happening here? we're gonna unpack what we're talking about reparations. So let me go ahead and unpack what we're talking about reparations. Let me get my bearings in. Because I actually got quite a few stuff that I do want to address. Let me pick this up here. All right. All right. So I asked a question. It says, should the American government give black people reparations? Um, and at my surprise, well, it wasn't really my surprise because how America is and how we were programmed to think. Like 60 something percent of the people said no to reparations. Like a high 60, like I think it was like 68 or 69% of the people said no to reparations. Then you had like 2% of the people saying we should have they don't know how to answer it. They don't know how to answer it. They don't know how to answer it. So they were saying we want to learn more about it. And so because they wanted to learn more about it, um I told them to come and tune into my show. And then the rest of the percent, I think it was like 20, was it 28% around there, 27% said yes to reparations. Which it didn't really shock me. I'm in the deep South, so it doesn't shock me. It's just the South, so I mean I don't expect that to happen. None of these people understand what the inner city is and how the urban inner city and how it is laid out for everyone that's in the urban inner city. So, but I do want to speak on that. So let me but I do want to pose I did pose a question that is crazy because nobody was able to answer this question. The question was, so why did America give reparations to the Japanese Americans, Native Americans, and Israel? Even until this day, Israel it's a big package. Israel receives $10 million a day from the U.S. government. That's your tax dollars. That's your tax dollars, and Israel receives a million, $10 million a day, a day. It's a lot of different things why we're giving them reparations. But one of the things was back from 1948, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys that are paying taxes now, um, the majority of people that's paying taxes right now had nothing to do with what happened in 1948 when it concerned Israel and what America um, did that kind of hurt Israel in a specific way that helped them from resources. So we're trying to help repair their military. We're trying to help them repair certain aspects in their economy because of that. But people don't want to talk about those reparations. All right. But I do want to give you the definition of reparation, and then I'm going to read a piece of an article that I wanted to share with you guys. And then from that, I do want to give you some more information. And then I'm going to open up the call lines because I'm pretty sure nobody's going to call that I spoke to today because they're all scared. So, but none of them disproved what I said, and no one could answer that last question. Why did they give the Japanese American or Israel? Why they still giving Israel reparations, or what? And why did they give the Native American reparations? No one can answer that question. So that was the issue. All right. So reparation, it's a noun, the making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. Now, this doesn't mean that the people that have been wronged are um are receiving reparations for the people that directly wronged them. And then there's another definition, the compensation for war damages by a defeated state. So that's something like, what they did during the Holocaust. Germany had to pay reparations to the Jewish people, and that's what we're talking about. So there's two different definitions of it. It's just repairing, and there's another side definition where it means repairing. Um, and anytime you repair something, it's a reparation. So, um, because it has the word repair in it. That's the root word. But anyways, so all right. So let me handle this. Hold on. Let me grab this here. All right. Okay. All right. So there's a few things I want to address about reparations, and then I'm gonna expound upon that. And it's really no one has ever disputed what I'm saying. They just said you're wrong, Peter, and you know we don't owe black people anything. You're right. You don't owe black people anything. I don't owe black people anything. You just want a free handout, a check. Look, reparations is more than a check. Reparations is a lot of things other than a check. And I do want to address that. Let me see here. All right. So I want to read this insert from this article here. All right. This was done. The author of this article is Tadnisi Coates. Okay. It says the case for reparations. And she's trying to make a case for reparations. So she said 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 60 years of separate but equal, 35 years of racist housing policy. Until we reckon with our compound moral debts, America will never be whole. Let me repeat that. Until we reckon with our compounding moral debts, America will never be whole. All right. So the article was talking about reparations and how it makes us how it will heal the nation. Um it will start the process of healing the nation. I think that reparations should be is more than monetary, more than just a check in the mail. I even had one guy today, a white guy today, tell me, "Oh, if they're gonna give black people reparations, they might as well give everybody, just everybody, money, so it could be fair." So I was like, "So you saying that you want to prosper off of black people's pain and current pain?" For some reason, people are saying slavery, like slavery was the only atrocity that America did. It was the original atrocity. As far as when it comes to black people, towards black people, the original atrocity was stood on the land from the Native Americans, and trying to make them sick on purpose so they can take their land. Whatever. Thanksgiving. Listen, we had Thanksgiving. That's what they taught us. We had Thanksgiving. We were welcomed, and they said, here's the land. We can share this land together. That's what we had. We had Thanksgiving. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the Native Americans. I've talked about them plenty of times, but they received reparations multiple times throughout history, even in the 90s. So the land that was stolen what, 400 years ago, 300 years ago. A lot of the land was stolen during that time, but in the 90s, they were issued out land and checks, reparation. So they got reparations. But black people, on the other hand, did not receive any attempt of reparation. And people say, Peter, you just wanted to get a check in the mail and you, no, 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 sorry. I'm first generation Jamaican American. So I'm not talking about getting any checks. I don't need any checks. I don't want them. But I do want to give the black people that should get them checks and other things. And let me break that down for you. We got to break down how debts are paid. And I know that a lot of people might disagree with this, but whether they disagree with it or not, these are facts. I don't like to deal with other things. I like to deal with facts. In this country, the way this country is set up, the fact is this: if you have if you have a child, um, and you leave them an inheritance, then that child will and you leave the child an inheritance. But over the course of your life, you you got a lot of debt, or you whether the debt was small or big, it doesn't matter. But you got debt. You're indebted to someone or some organization or to some people. Um, what happens is when you have somebody that that is in debt and your children receive an inheritance, say like you leave, you know, $10,000, $20,000 to split amongst your children. Um, and the debt was like 5,000, 6,000, $7,000. The debt will be paid with your inheritance, and then whatever is left, your children will fight over. Um, but people don't understand that. So when we're looking at America, America has a debt towards the black Americans. They had a debt towards the Native Americans. They had a debt towards they felt that they didn't have a debt, but they felt that they did the Japanese Americans during World War II wrong. So they felt indebted to them morally. We're talking about even a moral debt. But black people did 246 years of slavery, another 90 of Jim Crow, then 35 years of housing discrimination. Well, no, separate but equal was like 90 years. And then like another 35 years of housing discrimination where they wouldn't let black people get houses through federally funded grants that were giving loans out to people. Long as you were able to pay and had money, you were getting loans. But there was something called redlining, a process called redlining. And during redlining, guess what was happening? They will redline. They will put every house and every area in red, which were the black and brown areas. They would say we're not giving loans to those areas because they were high risk areas for loans. Even though during that time they didn't exactly move out all the good blue collar jobs out of those neighborhoods yet. They were in the process of doing that, but eventually they end up moving those jobs to the suburbs where the white people lived. And that's all by design. That's all by design. So let me break down some stuff for you. I do want to read this what I posted earlier today. All right. So this is what I said earlier today. I said here we are, and systemic racism isn't a thing of the past. It's still here until today. That's why America still owes black people. No matter how you slice it, you want the division to stop. You want there to be
racial peace, America needs to pay back the debt that it owes. The black ancestors built this country for free. That is a fact. They were never paid. So it falls on the descendants of that debt. Let me stop right there. When America gave reparations to the Japanese Americans for World War II, that wasn't like 2 years after World War II. That wasn't like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. It was decades after another generation came about. They got checks in the 90s. They gave every Japanese American that was either living or had descendants living $20,000 a piece. And that's not doing 256 years of slavery, another 90 years of separate but equal, no, Jim Crow, and another 90 years of separate but equal, and then 35 years of house and discrimination. We're not talking about that. America didn't do that to the Japanese American. For the war, how long the war lasted, they put them in internment camps in America. It was terrible. But guess what? It wasn't slavery. But guess what? They made it right with the Japanese Americans. Why did they make it right with the Japanese Americans? Well, at least to attempt to make it right. But the black population, they didn't attempt to make it right. And then let's I want to address this. I want to address someone saying, well, welfare and food stamps, that was isn't that like reparations? No, because white people benefit from welfare than any other race of people. White people do. 70% of the money that goes to welfare goes to white families. I'm sorry. That's just the truth. So you can't use that. That doesn't count. Don't even bring that up. That's just an ignorant argument. So we are going to deal with and dive into the rest of this here. Uh it says, all right. So it says, so it falls on the descendants of the debt. All right? They are responsible to pay with the inheritance. So when the inheritance is left over for your children, if you have debt, you know who pays for it? The inheritance that you leave your children. It pays the debt that you incurred in your lifetime. And then the rest of it, they can enjoy or fight over it and do whatever they want with it. All right? It says they are responsible to pay with the inheritance. All right. Do you know how debts are paid when you die? It falls on your children. If you leave them an inheritance, and America is, if you leave them an inheritance, and that's if you leave them an inheritance. If you don't leave them an inheritance, that's a whole nother story. We don't want to go into the logistics of that because this is not what we're talking about. There was an inheritance left. So when your ancestor died, guess what they inherited? It's so funny that people say, "Oh well, nobody was alive through slavery," even though it's slavery. It's more than slavery when we talk about reparations to black people. But let's go with that argument. The argument is, "Oh no, it's not. It's not about slavery," and it's deeper it's deeper than slavery. Nobody was alive and it's during slavery. No, it's deeper than slavery. It's deeper. Yes, nobody was alive during slavery. So that generation that was alive during slavery said, nope, we're not going to do any reparations. So the next generation says, nope, there are still people alive that were there during slavery, but nope, we're not going to give them reparations. And then the next generation comes and says, oh, there's still some children, there's still some old people that's still alive. Nope, we're not going to give them reparations or their children. I don't know how they fed their children coming from slavery like that, but we're not going to give them reparations. They don't. And then it keeps going to generation, and every generation has an excuse why not to give black people. I think, let me tell you what I think. I think the issue is the black part. black people receiving something from the government. I think that's the issue. We really didn't have an issue giving it to the Japanese Americans. We really didn't have an issue giving it to the Native Americans. And I believe all those other groups of people deserved something from the American government in attempt to make it right in good faith. I mean, I can't. Okay, what? Let's negotiate. What you think? We wronged you, so let's negotiate. Native Americans. They didn't get a great deal, but they got some kind of negotiation and got some kind of payment. Something they got something. So I want to go through this. Let me go finish through this. I don't want to get into this, and then I want to open up the phone lines because a lot of y'all, some of y'all said y'all were gonna call in and say something, but I highly doubt it because a lot of y'all are scared to do stuff like that. So whatever. All right, so it says, okay, so the inheritance is passed down to your children, and they must pay that debt with the inheritance. And what is the inheritance? America is that inheritance. We all pass down the inheritance. America. So America is the inheritance. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. From generation to generation, guess what we do? We pass down America. We pass down this great country. Blood, sweat, and tears created this country for free. People's blood, sweat, and tears for free created this country and made this country the way it is now. It was King Cotton that made this nation what it is now. It was during the Civil War. If they didn't allow the 200,000 slaves and people that weren't slaves to fight for the Union, we wouldn't have America today as you know it. Black people won the war. Black men fought and won the war versus the South in the Civil War. If it wasn't for black people, we wouldn't have America. Okay? That's just facts. You go through history, black people are continually saving America. You go to the Vietnam War, black men only made up 7% of the population. 7%. But guess what? They made up between 7% and 11 because they were only 13% of the population. I think it was 7%, if I'm not mistaken. You can fact check me, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate. 7% of the people, the black men that fought, that lived in America, made up 34% of the soldiers in Vietnam. 34. Remember, they had to do a draft. How did that happen? How did they end up happen? How did they end up drafting black people at a higher rate? You think that was by accident, or you think that was by design? So, like I said, black men were only 7% of the population, but made up 34% of the men that were fighting in the Vietnam War. And then they came home and was doing separate but equal when it wasn't really equal. It was separate and not equal. And still was mistreated after giving more than enough to support this country in battle during the Vietnam War. It's more than just slavery. You got to go through history and find out where black people was doing during that time. We're not talking about the narrative that you were fed in school or the narrative that you were perceived and your parents taught you. We're talking about the truth. We're talking about the accurate, factual, historical truth here. All right. So if one generation fails to pay that debt, the next generation has to pay that debt. So the answer is yes. We do owe black people living today. So with that being said, Black people will take what America owes plus interest and all of the added late fees because it is well overdue. Don't be mad at at the situation. Be mad at all the generations that passed on the opportunity to pay the debt and left it up to you. It's just like, your parents leaving you a debt, and then instead of dealing with that debt, you pass it on to the next generation to deal with. And then the next generation was like, well, we know what happened and why the debt was created, but there was nobody alive that made decisions. Did you know that America is paying debts that you and I had nothing to do with? Do you know that? You know that America is paying debts currently that maybe two generations back owed. Now we're paying it. And guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna leave debt for the next generations to deal with. That's just the way it works. So it's crazy because after hearing all these atrocities, and I want to stay on point here. Because I wrote a few notes here that I want to get I want to briefly talk about generational and psychological trauma. Um I wanted to play a video, but I didn't want anybody for anything that had to do with copyright or anything like that. So I do want to address generational and psychological trauma. One lady said to me that this is trauma that any person from any color can experience. And I say, but it wasn't and it hasn't. We can say, hey, white people can experience trauma, and that's true. We could say that Native Americans, we can say that any other people, groups of people have experienced trauma. Yes, we can say a bunch of people have experienced trauma. You can have a childhood trauma. But what we're talking about is something different. We're talking about generational trauma. Generational trauma goes like this. Imagine when you witness someone being lynched in the streets, and say your great grandma or your great grandma. No, my great grandma witnessed this. Just my great grandma, not my great great grandma. My great grandma. My great grandma was born in 1906. That's just my great grandma, my first great grandma. My grandma experienced stuff. And I spent a lot of time as a child with my grandmother, me and my siblings. So we're talking about not so far long ago. And then their mother and their grandmother experienced slavery and experienced other things. Y'all act like slavery was like centuries ago. It wasn't. It's actually slavery still happened today. But the slavery that you're referring to actually wasn't it wasn't even 200 years yet. That slavery was 150, 56, 57 years since that slavery took place. So now, what I want to talk about is I want to address that generational trauma. Imagine, just go with me here. Imagine your grandmother experienced lynching, killing, and mistrials, people getting off, people just coming in, separate, experiencing. And we're just going to talk about separate but equal during that phase where they saw that the school system was different. It's still like that now, but even more so back then. That because they weren't given the same books and the quality of the same books, what was happening was they were actually um they had poor education. They didn't have access to education. This is when HBCUs started first forming because a lot of the white colleges wouldn't um give any black people access to their colleges. So black people had to come up with colleges for black people so we can have higher education. Um, and that's where you get historically black colleges. They're not exclusively black anymore because things have changed, but that's why they're called HBCUs because they were historically black universities. That's what that means. Historically black universities. It was historically. That's how it started because we had to have some colleges because we weren't going to get higher learning if we didn't create our own colleges. That's how bad it was. So imagine all the lynching, all the KKK activity, all that activity. And this is just talking about my grandmother. We're not talking about my great grandmother. We're talking about my grandmother. Now imagine what my grandmother would say to me. She would tell me about the lynching. She would tell me about how they made examples out of us and how white people during that time made examples out of us. She told us to love everybody, but she said also be wise. She taught us those things. So now imagine us learning that and then we had our own experiences with with things similar to that and why things were set up a certain way. You don't think that will cause trauma? You don't think that will cause um um a idea of worry for good reason, for a great reason. When it boils down to it, there's a long time and even to this day, black people don't trust white people. But we have to take that chance and trust white people because they have the key to jobs. They have the key to different areas that we might want to go. They have access to that. But imagine how much trauma that you are caused, especially when you are left in a predicament in the inner city. See, a lot of these people are talking because they don't understand what happened in the inner city and why the inner city became the inner city. I don't have time for all that. The show is not that long. I'm not on here for 2 hours. I'm on here for an hour, 10, hour, 15 minutes. So I don't have time to tell you how the inner city became the inner city and the reason why you don't understand the generational trauma. You haven't seen the state of black people. You haven't lived in the inner city where it's nothing but black people and there's no access to, there's barely any resources. It's so bad that they start making up resources to help black people as if it's going to help them and it doesn't. So if you ever lived in a big city like New York City, Los Angeles, um, any metropolitan city really where there's an inner city of black people. So you got to go to those states that have a good portion of black population because there's some states that still don't have that's still segregated, don't have a portion of black. Anyways, I'm not gonna talk about that. So, but let me continue. I don't have time. I have to keep going. There's some stuff I want to cover, and I want to give people an opportunity so they won't say that I didn't give them an opportunity to say anything. All right, all right. So okay, so after hearing all these atrocities, after seeing and understanding that it's more than just slavery, that it was Jim Crow, that it was the housing discrimination, and there was like 90 years of separate but equal when it wasn't really separate but and equal, it was separate and unequal. Um, You can tell by history and what happened in history that that is the case. After hearing all these atrocities, black people don't owe America doesn't owe black people 50 cents a week, 5 cents a week, 10, $1 a week, $1 a day. They don't owe them anything. Maybe access to college, free college. How about healthcare? Free healthcare for black people. They don't deserve anything. How about free um therapists? Access to therapy for free. How about access to that to deal with the generational trauma? Can we get that? And when I say we, I'm talking about my people because they're my people. We're not going to go into America. The Caribbean was part of the Atlantic slave trade, and America had big stakes in the Caribbean. We're not going to talk about that. You can't even deal with the black people that had slaves and can trace back. Hard to trace back, but you know that they ancestors was possibly slaves on this land, and that's it. They didn't go to Caribbean. They used to go to the Caribbean, come back to this land. They used to go to especially Jamaica. Jamaica was a butt breaking plantations. They had a bunch of those. That's why there was a lot of hard black people in Jamaica. And there's a lot of generational things that's happened with Jamaica. That's why a lot of quote unquote Jamaicans are quote unquote homophobic because what they did over there during slavery. So that's generational too. They used to send them to Jamaica and bring them back over to America when they started to act right. But that's a whole different. So I don't want to go into all that. Y'all can't even deal with America's black population. So we're just gonna deal with America's black population. So after hearing all that, they black people can't get access to land. They can't have access to home loans with low interest rates. You're saying that they can't get nothing. They can't get free water for life. I mean, we all need water. You can't give black people free water for life. They don't deserve anything. After hearing all these atrocities, after hearing things that are continuing on since the 90s, trust me, that's me. That affects the 8. That affects the not that old. And I'm not old. Actually, I'm not old at all. And the 90s affects me personally. You might think that that it's slavery, but it's more than just slavery. We're also talking about the war on drugs that happened in the 80s and early 90s. We're talking about that damages the black and those things that damage the black and brown community. But yeah, you don't want to talk about that. You want to talk about slavery because it gives you an excuse to say, "Oh, it was so long ago," and it wasn't even that long ago. It wasn't even 2 years. I, I've been hearing since I was a kid, since I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, when certain conversations came up because we kids are more than advanced than you think. But certain conversations that came up, every white person that I came in contact with, oh, slavery was so long ago, 200 years ago, because their parents told them it was 200 years ago. It wasn't even 200 years ago yet. When Martin Luther King said, "I had a dream," when he said that speech, it was only 100 years outside of slavery. And since that speech, that was what, 1960, well, when Martin Luther King had a dream speech, that was 1963. Was it 1963 that he had a dream speech? That was only what, 50 something years ago, 57, 58 years ago. So slavery is only 100. I'll give you 160 years. It's not even 200 yet. It barely passed 150. So this is generation deflection after generation deflection after generation deflection. I'm telling you that we need to pay. I need to pay. It falls on me too. I'm an American. You know how America pays its debts? It used you and my tax dollars to pay its debts. So if America uses you and my tax dollars to pay its debts, when they're issuing out, whether it's monetary or whatever it may be, what reparations may be, it comes from our tax dollars. That's how they pay their debts, even to the date, whether we had anything to do with those debts or not. Why are we giving $10 million a day to Israel? Did you and I have anything to do with that? No, we had nothing to do with it. But guess what? They're using our tax dollars to give Israel $10 million a day. Now you do the math on $10 million times 365. That's that's $10 million times 366 on a leap year, and we're giving this money, these payments, all the way up to the year 2028. This is called reparation. They're repairing something that America had did. It wasn't no war. America didn't drop bombs in Israel, didn't kill anybody directly. It was something that they did. It was too soon and it damaged Israel. So America said, we're going to help repair certain aspects of your economy. That's what happened with Israel. That's called reparations. They're repairing something. That's one of the definitions of reparation. They felt like they wronged them in a certain way, and they said, "Okay, since we felt like we wronged you, we're going to help repair you." And that's what we're talking about with black people. America needs to help repair the black situation, the black experience in America. That's the issue. That's what America needs to do. They need to repair the black experience. Someone told me today that we're taking down statues, we're doing all this. Taking down statues does taking down statues, Confederate statues that should have never went up in the first place, doesn't help black people. It just does what you're just doing what you're supposed to do. Tr- Treacherous traitors of America need to not be praised in the country that they were treasonous in. That has nothing to do with black people. That has everything to do with America. Black people are sick of tired of it because they're being reminded. Imagine, black people are being reminded by the money that we carry. All these presidents and these people that own slaves. We're looking at the money and say these people are being praised, and they enslaved my ancestors. Here you go. Let me buy these groceries. Oh, these people are praising money, and nothing but people on this money are people that destroyed this country and thought that black people were less than human. Here you go. Let me get that brand new TV. I've been saving up for this. You see where I'm getting at? We're reminded by the statues, reminded we're sick of seeing these things. If America says what it says it is, these things are supposed to take place. Statues are supposed to be removed of traitors and treasonous people, treasonous anti-American people. They don't need to be praised in the streets. That's just backwards. That's like opposite of what America is supposed to be. So let's um let's move forward. I'm addressing that. I'm addressing a few things that people came to me with. Let's see here. Let's see. Someone asks, how do we end systemic racism? I came from a country that systemic race from people that systemic. He talking about Irish people. Let's go ahead and debunk this Irish people thing. in America, the Irish people were in a lot of them were um indentured servants. And let me tell you what indentured servitude is. It was a contract between someone that owed a debt and someone that can help pay the debt. A lot of them got paid very low wages. Some of them didn't get paid, but they were paying off a debt or they were paying off something. They had a choice to either stay in jail or go to America and become an indentured service, and you could work off until you could free. And then a lot of them were given land so they can build a future. So they paid their debt and then got reparations, which is they got repaired. We not gonna talk. So it's not the same thing. They didn't make the Irish skin a stigma. They actually allowed Irish people to become white because at first the Celtics weren't white. They the uh then same thing with the Italians. The Italians weren't white, and they saw their numbers were dwindling, and they were white people felt like they were going to become the minority in the country, so they allowed Italians to be part of the white family. And this whole farce, I'm gonna do a whole series on race and everything like that. It's a myth. It just was made up to maintain white supremacy. But it's Friday night. I'm very tired, but I do want to give you an opportunity to get on here and talk. Um, I got a big day tomorrow, like a big day tomorrow. So I'm not gonna be here all night. But I do want to give people a chance to get on and ask me a few questions and say that I'm wrong. But like I said, most of the people they're not gonna say that I'm wrong. They're not going. They can't. They only could say that I'm wrong, but they don't have any historical facts on why I am wrong and why reparations wouldn't work because it has worked in the past. I just want to say this, and then I'm gonna leave it. Black people know what they deserve. But instead of saying that black people deserve something, we say what is owed to black people, it will bankrupt America. I'm going to say it again. What is owed to black people, it will bankrupt America. America owes black people everything that they would ask for, and it still wouldn't be enough. And people say, "Oh, you crazy, Peter? You just trying to get?" I'm not trying to get anything. I told you they're probably not gonna give me a dime if they ever do get reparation. They're not gonna give me a dime. I'm first generation Jamaican, so it's not. It's about right and wrong. They can't pay the Native Americans enough, and they can't pay black people enough. So if they pay Native Americans and black people what they really are owed and everything that they asked for, there will be no such thing as the United States of America. The Native Americans and black people will come together and create a new nation called whatever we wanted to call it. That's probably what would happen. That's how much America owes black people. But instead of saying, hey, it's too much, we don't know how much it will cost. We can't afford it. Instead of saying we can't afford it, you saying, oh, you don't deserve it. No, they black people deserve it. 110%. Because if the Native Americans deserved it in the 90s and the Japanese Americans deserved it in the 90s, when generations have passed from what they originally were getting reparations for. I think the issue with a lot of white folks that don't want to give black people reparations, I think it's the black part. Just the same thing with Black Lives Matter. There's nothing wrong with saying all lives matter. There's nothing wrong with saying white lives matter. There's nothing wrong with saying blue lives matter. Clearly, you get the concept. But I think the issue is the word black. It does something to your inner skin. I don't know. It boils your skin on the inside. This one lady was getting hostile and mad. Like, how dare you even attempt to say that black people are owed something? Because they are. That's just the truth. That's historical. Historically, morally, America is the moral compass of the world, but still hasn't made an attempt to make it right with the black American population. They'll tell everybody how to treat their people. They'll go to the Middle East, tell them they'll go to Georgia. They'll go to Georgia, the country Georgia, and tell them how to treat their people. They'll go to different countries. We're supposed to be the moral compass of the world, but for some reason, we can't even try to help and repair the black population in America. It's really silly if you think about it. It's wrong and silly. If you can't afford it, America, let us know that you can't afford it. But tell us what you can afford and pay that. America, whatever you can afford, pay that. But make an attempt. You want to heal the racial divide? Tell America to pay reparations to black people. I promise you it will go a long way to healing the racial divide. That's already there. Black people didn't create segregation. White people did. I didn't say you white person did, but your white ancestors of America did. They create segregation. Black people didn't say, oh, let's be separate but equal. White people said that. Not you, white person, but white people. White ancestors of America said that. So the issue lies with this. Black people don't owe reparations to black people. White people don't owe reparations to black people. But this country called America owes black people big time. You look through history, even in the last election, black women, shout out to Stacey Abrams. They saved America. Once again, here comes black people saving America. Saving what America was supposed to stand up to be. Black people have to continually save that. It's just the facts. I wish it wasn't that. I wish the facts were a lot sweeter. I wish the facts were more favorable to white people, but it really isn't. It's just what it is. It's just the facts. So I'm just asking white people to understand that we need to pay black people what is owed. And people say, well, how are we going to trace back who was slaves? And you keep bringing up slavery. Okay, let's go with slavery. You can't. You know why? Because black people were property. So they didn't have records. So they weren't able to have quote unquote birth certificates. So you couldn't keep records. So this is what I say. Any black person born in America and could trace back family being here during the civil rights movement, during separate but equal, during Jim Crow, during all these atrocities, during the black codes and the housing discrimination. Y'all don't understand the black codes. I just want to tell y'all the black codes. There was something called the black codes. And it was things that they used to put black people in jail right after slavery. It was terrible. These are atrocities. They literally made a law to say right after slavery happened and slavery ended, right? They made a law to say if you don't have a job, then you can be arrested. So what they did was those black people that they can catch, they arrested them. And after they arrested them, they put them in jail. And then this is where the jailing leasing system came about. They leased those black folks to the same plantation owners. And the plantation owners would pay the jail a little bit of coin. And a lot of these things were more harsher than regular slavery. You know why? Because the jailer didn't have an invested interest in the black person's well being. When at least when the black person was owned by the slave the plantation had invested interest. 'Cause that's their worker. They might beat them and castrate them, but then unless they have to make an example, they ain't killing them. The jailer was like, do what you will with them because I don't care. Just pay me. So it was a lot harsher. So you after hearing all that, if you can trace back those people during those times, then you, you as a black person deserve reparations. And yes, somebody asked me about mixed children with white mother and black father or vice versa. Yes, if they're on their mother's side or father's side, whatever the black side is, if they could trace back there, yes, they deserve reparations too. Black America is only 13%, and you can't make it right with 13% of the population. That's that it's a medical condition. You have something medically wrong with you if you have a problem with repairing 13% of the population. And actually less than 13%, because everybody that's black in America necessarily can't trace back during all those times that I listed off. And even black people today, you can go on the war on drugs and how it affected the black community and how they were targeting the black community. We can actually go on that. So if you could trace your family back to the 80s, the 90s, I think you deserve reparation. It might not be at the same, um, you might not have access to the same things. It might be levels to it. And they can negotiate and they can talk about what the levels may be. But I think that black people do deserve monetary gifts in the form of reparations. They also deserve access to land. They deserve access to um, home loans with low interest rates. I think they should have access to health care. They should have access um, to psychiatrists and access in mental health. They should have, and I'm talking about free access to mental health. I think they should have access to free schooling where they don't have to pay a dime. This will help the wealth gap, the extreme wealth gap. The actual black family only makes 10% of the average white family, of what the average white family makes. We're talking about families. We're not talking about individuals. We're talking about families. These are just facts. And like I said, nobody came on here. I posted a link. Nobody came on here and was able to wanted to challenge me, and they still can't. They argue through text all day, but they'll never challenge what I'm saying because what I'm saying is facts. It's fact. It's a fact that America has paid reparations to people that were either equal or more deserving than black folks, and they also paid reparations to people that were quote unquote less deserving, still deserving, but less deserving than black people. And they also would, let me say it again, they America factually this is factually accurate. America has paid reparations to people that are equal to or more deserving than black people, and they also have paid reparations to people that are less than deserving than the black population is. That's the truth. So why can't black people get reparations? There's no good reason why. All your reasons are crap. All your reasons don't matter. Now, if America never paid reparations and this was some new phenomenon that I'm talking about, then you have an argument because it hasn't been done before. But it has been done in recent years. That was in the 1990s. I was born in the 80s. I'm only 30 something years old, early 30s. So what I'm saying to you is it was recent. I was old enough to watch it on TV as they were handing out the checks and handing out reparations. That's what I'm saying to you. And you and the people that are listening to this, you probably were too. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. I'm just here to educate. Just gonna be your neighborly neighbor Peter, letting you know and educating you on things related to race and racial situations and the divide between the races. And also, if you tune into my show, a lot of white people will learn how to keep their jobs. There was a guy on one of the platforms I'm on. He does painting, and he's called out today, and he was looking kind of racist. I'm not gonna call his name out, and he probably lost some customers. Actually, he did one because one lady said she was gonna actually call him to do some painting, but she gonna call somebody else. And matter of fact, I could give her a recommendation. I know some guys that can do great job painting. Trust me, I know some guys. But let me get out of here. I'm go ahead and get out. That was it for my show. Y'all go ahead. I had a lot to get through today. I didn't even get through everything I wanted to get through, but like I said, I'm not trying to be here all night. I don't like I said, I don't get paid for this, so I do this for as a service. So you're welcome. All right. So go ahead and click that bell. Like, share, and subscribe. All right. So y'all guys take care. Y'all have a good night. Don't forget to follow me. You see on the bottom on this side of the screen on the bottom right here, right in this area. It says Peter Anderson. All right. Instagram at Peter Anderson Show. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Go ahead follow me on Facebook, Peter Anderson Music. I also do music too. So I do want to pop this up here, this card up here. Let me take this out. All right, so yeah, that's all we need. That's all today. That's all we got for you today. So you guys take care. You guys be safe. I know the kids in my town going back to school. Appreciate seeing some of the people that that I know on from the platforms that I'm on. So shouts out to y'all. I don't want to call y'all name out and then put y'all on the spot like that. But y'all take care. Y'all be safe. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend. And please be safe and wear your damn mask. Put on the damn mask. Might save somebody's grandmother. Shoot, it might even save your life. Put on a damn mask. Everybody wear a mask. We can't afford another shutdown. So wear your damn mask. That's that's the public service announcement today from your neighborly neighbor Peter. Wear a damn mask. That's all. Good night, folks. Yeah, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at the Peter Anderson Show. Like me on Facebook. And don't forget to